Say hello. Welcome back. Say hey, y'all. Say hello. Okay, so today I wanted to make a video about postpartum baby blues because they are real. That is a thing, and they really do happen, and I really want to talk about it. So we left the hospital a little earlier than we should have, and I think that had a little bit to do with it. I was trying to breastfeed, having problems with that, and I think I would have done better with having help at the hospital versus coming home. So I had her on a Friday, we got home on a Saturday, and Monday, Nathan went back to work. So I think that had a lot of play and put a lot into it. There's some other things in the background that were going on as well that didn't help. And so being overwhelmed, and then we come home and she's crying, I'm crying, we can't figure this out. But it was more or less, I needed help with little things that, I didn't even realize I would need help with. And then I didn't ask for help. And then it was just this big thing. And well, actually, it was a bunch of little things that made me just feel so overwhelmed. And so, I'm trying to breastfeed. We have a house full of guests. And so I'm having to go all the way into our bedroom, shut the door, because there's men in the house, and I'm very conservative when it comes to stuff like that. And so I go in there. We don't have a TV in our room now. Well, we did, but the remote wasn't working, so it was not a functioning TV at the time. And so it's not like I could just sit in there and be on TV. And then I'm trying to hold her and breastfeed, so I couldn't be on my phone because I was still trying to learn how to breastfeed. And so there was a lot of things that played into this, but I felt so lonely. That was the most lonely feeling I've ever felt in my entire life. And you feel so alone because you've got a house full of people and you're by yourself. Like, that is nuts. Like, you can hear everybody talking and laughing and right outside the door, and you're in here by yourself with this baby who doesn't know you. You don't know her or him. And it was a lot. Like, that was very and you got your emotions and stuff like that, but I never had these surges of emotions and all this that people say. I'm not saying it's not real, but I'm also saying you're still yourself, and whoever you are on the inside is what comes out when you're pregnant. So, or even after baby. Now, I got more agitated at things I didn't get agitated at before, or it took longer to get agitated. And I think I'm still a little bit that way, not as bad, but it's like you don't have time for funny business. You've got a baby, you've got somebody else, another human you're taking care of. You don't feel like horse playing and having all cutting up. We don't have time for that. Let's get what we got to get done. And that's how you feel, and that's okay. But, there was just a lot that made me, my personal self, feel lonely. I felt just by myself, like I was doing this alone, yet I had a million people in the house, and it was just, that's overwhelming. That's a lot, and everything's so brand new. I've been around babies my whole life, so it wasn't brand new, because when the baby's crying, there's a series of lists you go down, series of things you do to figure out what's wrong with baby, since baby can't talk yet. And now we know each other well enough that I know her hunger cry, I know her pain cry, I know her, gas cry, whatever it may be. Or maybe she's just fussing and wants to be picked up and held. I know all those different cries now and social cues that she may do. But at the time when she was a day and a half old, 2 days old, you don't know all those things that you try to and you think you do, but you might not. And that's okay. And I needed to take a step back, take a breath. And then once everybody, this lasted, I would say, a solid week. Because once she was about a week old, everybody left my house. and I was able to come outside and sit in this rocking chair that this was the purpose of buying for, and breastfeed my baby in the comfort of my home privately, and I was able to do so. And ever since then, everything got better. We have a huge TV in here. I could sit in here and look outside or be with my dog or whatever it was. I could friggin' make a glass of water while I was breastfeeding her, it was nice. But that had a lot to do with it. So if you are pregnant or about to have a baby, I would suggest making your partner, number one, stay at home. Don't go back to work right away. If you can afford it, if your job allows it, obviously. But if you can afford it and if your job allows it, stay at home. Help your significant other. And when I say help, that doesn't mean lay on the couch and watch TV. That means, sorry, my phone that means more or less ask her what she needs, because 9 times out of 10, that brand new, she doesn't really know yet. But I needed things like, for me, for instance, it was hard for me to sit down and stand up. It was hard for me to just it was hard for me to do anything because everything was so there was so much pressure still down there from recovery from postpartum. And then on top of that, your uterus is trying to shrink down. And the more you breastfeed, the more it shrinks. And there's just a lot going on with my body that, I couldn't, I needed help going to the bathroom, things like that. I needed, for instance, if I had to go use the restroom, let's say I had to pee, you could go fill up that Perry bottle with warm water, versus me trying to do all of that at the same time. But there's just all kinds of little things. Like, for instance, like I said, it was hard for me to sit up and get up and sit down, all these things. Moving around was just hard. But sitting still hurt as well. And so if I sat down, I didn't want to have to get up. It takes me 5 minutes to get up and then walk across the house to get a pacifier that I left on the nightstand. Or, just little things like that I know I was breastfeeding so no one else could feed her. That was a lot. That was really hard, knowing you couldn't have help with that. And I struggled with breastfeeding, so that was even harder. But these little postpartum blues for me, I won't say I was depressed, but I was getting there. I could have easily, if people stayed in my house or just anything, I could have easily. Your teeth hurting? Are your teeth hurting? She's teething. But anyways, there was a lot of stuff that played into this that if it would have stuck around or stayed that way, I totally could have gotten, or probably would have gotten, postpartum depression. Now I say baby blues because I was lonely. I felt just by myself. Felt like I was doing everything alone at the beginning when it came to her. And literally I was alone. I was in the room by myself trying to feed my baby. And if you watch my breastfeeding video, she was eating like every 2 hours on the dot. And then I didn't know you were only supposed to feed like 10 minutes on each boob or 15 on each. But because I didn't know that, I was just letting her sit there. She was using me as a pacifier, but at the time I didn't know that. And so she was feeding for like 40 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. And so there was no time in between those feedings for myself. And that was a lot. That was really hard. And you've got a lot of emotions going on. I will say this, to make it a little bit lighter, you are on cloud 9 when you have a baby. I was on cloud 9, I know, when I had her. And it's this experience, this feeling, nothing else in the world will replace, nothing else could ever come close to it. I don't personally think having any other child, if I had a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth, could ever compare to the first time. because everything's brand new. You know, once you have your second baby, you've done it already, you know what to expect. But this, you go into it, no expectations, or expectations that are just crazy, that end up, she exceeded any expectation I ever had during birth and everything. And so it was a great experience. You're on cloud nine when you come home. And I was on such a cloud nine that I thought I wasn't hurting. Like, I didn't feel no pain. I felt great. Yeah, we'll just wait, because once you get home and you get situated, you feel it. You feel it. But at first I didn't. I mean, that's how just almost of a high feeling I had. And it was amazing. So I don't want to take away from that, because every little gas smile, every little just noise, I mean, anything she did, she was breathing, it was cute. You know, it's perfect. But there were, like I said, there was outside circumstances in my experience that had a big play into this too. But I'm not going to get into that. But there was a lot of other stuff that was going on. But the stuff that I named, like being alone, not being able to breastfeed in the comfort of my living room or around the house at all, that had a big play into it. So, but they are real. I didn't really think so. I thought people were just being, you know, maybe they just didn't want a kid and that's why they feel the way they do or whatever. But that's not true, because everything she did was perfect. It had nothing to do with her, if that makes any sense. It wasn't her. It was the atmosphere, the just whatever was going on at the time. But they are real, and I wanted to just kind of go over that a little bit, because I was a little, not skeptical, but had doubts, I guess, about things like that. And no one talks about it. They talk about the part where it's postpartum depression, and this mom wanted to kill herself and her child. Like, that's not really how it is. And it may be like that for some people once it gets really bad and further down the road. But like I said, this lasted probably a solid week. And if it would have lasted any longer, it would have turned into depression. But it didn't. And I could feel myself being just sad and lonely on the inside. I felt that. I discussed it with a best friend of mine who had a baby, and she's now pregnant, about to have a baby. But I discussed it with her, and she said, yes, I felt them too. They are real. That's normal. Anything you're feeling is normal, and that's okay. And me and her, but talking to somebody about it helped a lot. And not necessarily a mother or an aunt or even anybody who's related to you. I went outside of family relations and found it in a best friend and talked to her about it. Someone who's closer to my age, who has recently gone through the same thing and could give me just, I don't know, make me feel better at the same time, not brushing it off or, you know, anything like that. But it was very good to talk about. I would talk to someone if you feel that way, because you're probably feeling the same way everybody else has felt. And it felt good to know that somebody who had just gone through, you know, giving birth, I say just gone through. She's about to, but her first baby's like 3. So at the time it was like 3 years ago, but she's like my age. So, it was, she was like, man, I forgot I had even felt that way. You know, it's not something you almost remember. You don't really quite remember that, but I forgot all about that. But yes, yeah, you do feel those feelings, and that's normal, and that's okay. But anyways, I feel like I'm rambling. I've repeated myself 100 times, but I did want to go over that and talk about postpartum baby blues, or maybe postpartum depression. I wasn't clinically diagnosed or anything like that. I still answered all of the questions at her pediatrician normal. I didn't write anything down on that. But like I said, it was just that first week of her being born. So, but I hope somebody else watches this. Maybe you can relate, and maybe you felt the same way, or maybe yours was a little bit worse, and maybe you had to seek help, and that's okay. Or maybe you're trying to seek help, and that's okay. But we're going to go bye-bye. Say bye-bye. Can you say bye-bye? Quit looking at the puppy. Allie's right at my feet. You love the puppy. Okay, say bye-bye. Say we'll see you later. Look. Look. Who's that? Oh, who is that? You don't care? Okay.